Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sampurita pamita paramita balena vidvansiyo kila kilesa samola jalam tene valanda araham arahoti namam vandami buddha mamalam hadaye tapetva samanta cakkavalesu atra gaccantu devatam Saddhammang munirajassa sunantu sagga mokkadam Dhammasavana kalo ayam badanta Dhammasavana kalo ayam badanta Dhammasavana kalo ayam badanta Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Chattari mahani bhikkave ambani katamani chattari Amam pakkavannam pakkang amavannam Amang amavannam pakkang pakkavannanti Homage to the exalted one, the worthy one, the perfectly enlightened one. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear friends in the Dhamma, all of you are warmly welcome. Every day after the meditation session, we do have some discussions about Buddhism. That is very important because Buddha says he proclaims the path for the people who know the Dhamma, who see the Dhamma. When we start this spiritual journey, first of all, we should know what we practice, where we are going to, the destination. That is very important. Knowledge is very, very important. Knowledge leads us to go to the destination, the liberation, enlightenment. That is very important. Knowledge is wealth. And what kind of knowledge that we should improve throughout Dhamma discussion, throughout listening to Buddha's message? What kind of understanding, knowledge that we should improve throughout listening to what Buddha taught?
Have good friends, listen to them.
Yes, those are the ways how we improve our understanding. Throughout associating good friends, what kind of understanding that we improve?
Generosity.
Yes, generosity also like that. Okay, when we improve our understanding what Buddha taught, it can be divided into two. One of them is the conventional truth. The conventional truth. The conventional truth means that everyone knows. Mostly people know there is a world and we do some activities. As the result of activities, we will have the same result. This conventional truth depends on the karmic law. Here Buddha explained the way how we receive a blissful life, the path of heaven, heavenly path. In this truth, Buddha explained how we succeed our next life, and also by practicing some qualities, doctrines, we can succeed this life too, according to conventional truth. It is not a special thing in Buddhism, because before Buddha appeared in the world, there were some ascetic people who introduced the path of heaven. And they did a lot of meritorious deeds. They cultivated their mind. They reduced some negative thoughts such as attachment and anger. But after Buddha appeared in the world, Buddha introduced a very special thing, that the ultimate truth. Ultimate truth depends on the dependent origination. That is very important. These both truths can be seen in Buddhism. When we listening to a Dhamma or some sermon, we should be intelligent what that speaker says, whether conventional truth or ultimate truth. Sometimes some speakers explain conventional truth, but if we are ignorant, we may think that he explains ultimate truth. Sometimes we are confused. Therefore, we should have good understanding. We should be intelligent to compare and see the difference between conventional truth and ultimate truth. And first of all, Buddha wanted to show the path of heaven, Dhammagaru, heavenly path. For that, Buddha explained the karmic law. That is very important. Whatever we do with intention have the same results. When we do something with impure mind, we will have negative results. If we do something with pure mind, we will have the same results, fruitful results. This is the nature of the karmic law. And if we have this understanding, we always try to overcome negative thoughts, evils. That is the first step in Buddhism, sabba papa sakaranam, not to do any evil. Why we go away from negative evils, negative emotions? Because we know very well, if we do something with impure mind, we will have negative results, evil results. We never like it. Because we like our happiness. We like to live peacefully. Therefore, we don't like to do evils. That is why we try to go away from negative thoughts as much as we are knowledgeable about the karmic law. On the other side, we try to develop positive thoughts, merits, throughout the understanding of the karmic law. As much as we can, we practice good deeds, good thoughts, such as generosity, kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion. These are the things that we practice in the name of happiness. Buddha says, Sukho Punya Suchyo, practicing merit means improving happiness. As much as we can do good deeds such as generosity, morality and virtue, our happiness gradually increases. That is why we practice this path. However, that is very important. Some people may think that I am a good Buddhist because I do a lot of good deeds. I don't do bad deeds and I practice merit. Therefore, I am a good Buddhist. Some people may think. But however, it is not the sign in Buddhism as a Buddhist. And because in this truth depends on the conventional truth, and also still we are not away from delusion. What is the delusion? What is the ignorance? Ignorance means when we experience something through our senses, we may think that before we see these forms and something, it was here. After we experience, it remains, we may think. Sometimes you may think that it is true. Actually, it is true, but only in conventional truth. The karmic law, understanding of the karmic law depends on the conventional truth. When we do something, we think some people are in outside. And we experience as good or bad because of the nature of outside people and some instruments or something. We think that suffering or happiness are coming from outside. We think that these flowers are very beautiful, I am so happy. My son is so obedient, I am so happy. My children are well educated, I am so happy. We think that happiness comes from outside. Actually, this is true, but only in the conventional truth. When we go to the deeper level, nobody can bring us suffering or happiness. Happiness or suffering arises because of our mental conditions. Our ignorance, our attachment, our karmic law, these are the reasons why we suffer or be happy. And understanding of the ultimate truth is very important. This depends on the dependent origination or Paticcasamuppada. Have you heard about Paticcasamuppada? Yes, Paticcasamuppada or the dependent origination is the heart of Buddhism. Buddha says, Yo Paticcasamuppadam passati, so dhammam passati. He who sees the dependent origination or Paticcasamuppada sees the Dhamma. Yo dhammam passati, so mam passati. He who sees the Dhamma sees me, the Buddha. Understanding of the dependent origination is the way to recognize, understanding who Buddha is. Until we understand the dependent origination, even though we worship Buddha, actually we don't know that Buddha appeared in the world. That is why understanding of the dependent origination is very, very important. Our spiritual journey depends on how far we know the dependent origination. Understanding of the dependent origination leads to liberation, enlightenment, or Nibbana. We will discuss later these things with details. Now, first of all, I explain knowledge, and what is the second one? What is the second one? Not only knowledge, that we should reflect on it again and again, what we are listening to. According to our understanding, if you have heard impermanence, you have to reflect on it again and again. Then that understanding is going to be permanent in your life. Therefore, reflection or reflecting on what we listening is very important. And also, what is the next one? Yes, very good practice. This, everything is very important. What is the practice? How do we practice?
Meditation.
Yes. Meditation is one of the ways, not only one way.
Generosity?
Yes, we can practice many things like this. And there are a lot of doctrines that Buddhism has explained to practice in our day-to-day life. For example, Eightfold Path, 7 enlightenment factors, 5 spiritual faculties, fourfold mindfulness, as you mentioned, 3 characteristics, reflecting on 3 characteristics. And sometimes Buddha has explained, I proclaim you to practice only 2. What is that? Samatha and Vipassana. Concentration and insight meditation. And again Buddha says, you have to practice only 1. Yes, wisdom. And sometimes Buddha says, you have to practice only 1, that is mindfulness. When you practice mindfulness, your all spiritual qualities gradually increase. But it is very important, when we start this journey, first of all, you should have clear understanding what you practice. And mindfulness can be divided into 3 in deeper level. In a discourse, Buddha says, you should understand what mindfulness is. And also you should understand what mindfulness meditation is. And also you should understand what the path of mindfulness is. These 3 things are very important. Mindfulness meditation, the way of mindfulness meditation. Those 3 things are very sensitive. The meanings are very close. But however, mindfulness means keeping our attention in our body and mind. Or body, feelings, consciousness and mental formations. In short, we can divide it into 2. With details, we can divide it into 4. Kayanupassana, Vedanupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. That is mindfulness. First step. The second step, mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation is that in Satipatthana Sutta it says, Samudaya Dhammanupassee viharati, Vaya Dhammanupassee viharati. We should reflect on how these things arise and how these things cease. Samudaya Dhammanupassee viharati, Vaya Dhammanupassee viharati. Arising and ceasing. How our body, mind, feelings or mental formations arise and how they cease. That is the mindfulness meditation. The third one, the path of mindfulness meditation, it means the understanding of the process of arising and ceasing of suffering or the dependent origination. For example, if you want to go to a place or city or somewhere, first of all, you should take a seat in a vehicle, in a driving seat or other seat. Then, sitting in a vehicle is like mindfulness. Even though you get a seat in a vehicle, you can't go to the destination. Then second step is you have to drive. Like driving, mindfulness meditation. Even though having a seat and driving, you can't reach the destination. Why? You should have clear understanding the map or address where you are going to. If you don't know where you are going to, although you drive fast, you can't reach the destination. Understanding of the process of arising and suffering, arising and ceasing of suffering is like the map or address that we know where we are going to. Therefore, when we practice, actually, in conventional truth, it doesn't need to understand the dependent origination. When you practice good deeds, such as if you practice generosity, if you give something to others, if you practice loving kindness meditation, if you practice morality or discipline, it doesn't need to understand the dependent origination. You can have a blissful life after you die. But it is not only the purpose in Buddhism. Because before Buddha appeared in the world, there were a lot of people who had realized the heavenly path. But the special thing that appeared in the world after Buddha was born in the world is that pointing out the deliverance path, mokkha-magga. Here it is very important to understand the dependent origination. And that is why we should practice mindfulness, we should practice mindfulness meditation, and we should practice the path of mindfulness meditation. Satipatthana, Satipatthana Bhavana, Satipatthana Bhavana Marga. Those four things are very important. We went to the deeper level. Now we come back. We come to that topic that now we are going to discuss. Okay? This is a summary. This is summary. Again, we are going to the summary. We are going to this explanation again. However, now I would like to explain what I am going to today. Amba Sutta, the discourse of mangoes, or the simile of mangoes. Buddha says here, there are four persons, people in the world. Buddha has categorized all people in the world into four. In Buddha's language, in Pali, it says, Amang Pakkavanna. Unripe, looking ripe. Then, second one, then Pakkang Amavanna. Ripe, looking unripe. Third one, Amang Amavanna. Unripe, looking unripe. Fourth one, it is very important, Pakkam Pakkavanna. Ripe, looking ripe. There are four mangoes in the world. Four kinds of mangoes. But you know, there are a lot of kinds of mangoes in the world. Especially in India, more than 200 kinds of mangoes in India. And all of them can be included into these four things. There are some mangoes in outside. They are like ripe. But inside, they are not ripe. They are unripe. There are some mangoes in outside. It can be seen unripe. But inside, it is ripe. There are some mangoes, either inside and outside, unripe, like green color. And the fourth one, Pakkan Pakkavanna. There are some mangoes which are ripe, looking ripe. It is clear? You can understand these four kinds of mangoes? Actually, think you also have seen these kind of mangoes. Sometimes you are confused. Sometimes you are ignorant. And however, why Buddha has given these 4 examples, 4 similes? Buddha has compared these 4 mangoes to 4 people. Buddha has categorized all people in the world in these 4 categories. What is that? There are some people like Amam Pakkavanna, like unripe mangoes looking ripe. In outside, there are some people who are very pleasant, calm and quiet. They have good discipline. Their behavior is very pleasant. And people think that they are very successful people. Actually, according to conventional truth, they are successful. Sometimes they are well educated. They earn a lot of money monthly. Their children are well educated. Sometimes they have done some experiments as scientists. In the society, they are honored. They are appreciated. They are good people. They have good discipline, education, and wealth. But according to Buddhism, they are not successful if they don't know the process of arising and ceasing of suffering. If they don't know the Four Noble Truths, if they don't know the way how to overcome suffering, even though they are successful in the society, even though they have good discipline and behavior, they are not successful. They are like unripe, looking ripe mangoes. It is clear? Yes. Buddhism doesn't neglect them. Don't misunderstand. The success depends on, our real success depends on how far we are happy. Our happiness depends on how far we have overcome defilements. There are 3 major defilements. Negative thoughts. Those are craving, anger, and delusion. Usually people in the society mean the success of a person is how much they have reduced their craving or lust and anger. When Buddha appeared in the world, there were a lot of ascetic people who had eradicated their craving and anger for many eons. But they didn't know the ignorance or delusion. That is why still they are in the sansaric journey. In this situation, according to Buddhism, the success depends on not only how far we have reduced our lust and anger, but how far we have overcome ignorance or delusion. Even though a person has overcome anger and craving, in the current society they may be successful. But according to Buddhism, when we focus on dependent origination, actually they are not successful because they don't know how they suffer. They know the way. When the environment is very successful and calm, they are happy. But when the environment is complex and unpleasant, how they are? They worry. they are unhappy. Our success depends on how far we laugh when the environment is successful and pleasant. Our success depends on how far we don't suffer when the environment is unpleasant. When our children are well educated and when they show their skills very well, we are so happy. When our house is very clean and calm, we are so happy. When we are healthy, when we have good complexion, we are so happy with our friends. How about when we are going to sick? How about we are going to decay, old age? How about when we are near to death? Our happiness disappeared. Then our real success depends on how far we have overcome suffering in front of the problems, challenges, sufferings in our life. Buddha has introduced, there are 3 challenges that we have in front of us. There are 3 major challenges. What they are?
Old age.
Yes, old age or decay.
Sickness.
Sometimes sickness, because sometimes people don't get sick. Yes. First one is decay or old age. The second one is death. Third one is rebirth. These are the major challenges that we have in front of us. Our success completely depends on how far we have overcome these major challenges in our life. Buddha has introduced the way that leads to overcome these challenges. If we know the way that Buddha has explained to overcome these challenges, we are so fortunate. We receive this message because of a lot of merits that we have acquired in our previous life. You can be happy, you are so fortunate. That is why you are receiving this message, the way how to overcome suffering. And the first person that we explained here, Amam Pakkavanna. There are some people who appears in the world like very disciplined people and very happy people. Their behavior is very pleasant. They delight. But inside, they have no clear understanding how they can they can overcome suffering. That is the first one. The second person, what is the second thing? Second person, Pakkan Amavanna. Actually, he is ripe, looking unripe. What is that? The second person. Behaviorally, we can't understand he is a spiritual person because his behavior is natural. He behaves naturally like a common person, but he knows the way how he overcomes suffering. He has clear understanding the dependent origination, impermanence. Even though he is lazy, even though he is sleeping, but he knows the way how to overcome suffering. He is successful than who practice without understanding. The person with the understanding of the dependent origination who is sleeping is better than who practice meditation without this understanding. Why is that? If someone practices something to attain enlightenment, without this understanding, even though he effort, actually he can't reach the destination. His courage, dedication is useless. Even though someone is sleeping, with this understanding, one day after he wakes up, he is ready to practice it. In this situation, there are some people we can't see, we can't recognize them because they are so natural. They don't want to show their inner qualities. In the society, we can see mostly people who try to show their qualities haven't this understanding. Why is that? If they have clear understanding, spiritually they are happy. They have inner light. They have inner peace. They don't want to show and get some appreciations from outside because they are appreciated by themselves. They are appreciated by their understanding. They are so happy inside. That is the second one. The third one, amang amavannam. There are some mangoes in outside. It can be seen very well that it is not ripe. It is unripe. And inside, actually it is unripe. There are some people in the world, they have no good discipline. They have no pleasant behavior. They have a lot of mistakes and misbehaviors in their life. And also, they have no really spiritual life too. They don't know the way how suffering arises. And they don't know the way how to overcome suffering. They are empty spiritually. They are empty in inside and outside. In both sides, they are unsuccessful. It's clear? Yes, the fourth one, also very important, that what is that? Pakkan pakkavannam. There are some people who delight in good behavior. They are very pleasant. When we see their physical body and behavior, they are so calm and quiet. They are so pleasant. Their senses are so pleasant. And inside, their spiritual is very high. Their spirituality is very high because they know very well the way how they overcome suffering. They know the Four Noble Truths. Here the very important thing is that how far we know the Four Noble Truths. In short, arising and ceasing of suffering. Have any problems? Any questions? In these four kinds of people? Who are appreciated in Buddhism among these four kinds of people? Who are appreciated in Buddhism? The second person and fourth person. Both are appreciated, honored, highly appreciated. Okay? When we see these four people, you can recognize in which part you consist in. You can understand too that in which part you belong to. And you can understand it after this sermon, not now. And okay, now we are going to deeper level little by little. Actually, every day we discuss the same message. Because Buddha says, I explain only two things. Buddha says, I explain only two things. What they are?
Suffering.
Yes, suffering and the cessation of suffering. In his entire life, for 45 years, Buddha has explained only these two things. Suffering and the cessation of suffering. How suffering arises? According to your opinion. How suffering arises? In short, in very common level understanding. We can say some very, very strong words. It doesn't need.
Attachment. Ignorance.
Yes, how attachment arises?
Ignorance.
Yes, what is the ignorance?
Well, not understanding dependent origination, or the rising and ceasing of...
Yes, how we recognize our delusion or non-knowing of the dependent origination?
How consciousness is from the dependent origination.
Yes. For example, when you are crying, whenever you are crying, what is the nature of your mind?
Something in the past.
The past.
Yes.
That's what we were talking about.
Usually you think something which happened in the past. Not only you are thinking your past experience, your mind is fixed in the past experience. For example, when you are crying, when your close relative dies, then you are crying, my mom, my dad helped me, my mom fed me, saying these things, you cry. At that time, if you are unhappy, be sure you are not living in the present moment. You live in the past experience. Not only living in the past experience, your mind is completely fixed in that experience. The other example, that when somebody has blamed you, when you remember that incident, and also when that person is coming here, there is a person who has blamed you a lot in one day. Now he is coming here. What happens to you?
Go back to the past, so you remember the past experience.
Yes, you remember that incident. Not only remembering that, immediately you may get angry. What is the reason? Your mind goes to the past experience, but now sometimes that person has forgotten everything. But still you are in the past experience. That is why Buddha says, someone can blame you once. If you are ignorant, you are blamed again and again by your misunderstanding, ignorance, delusion. Therefore, we should not suffer because we have received a very fortunate life. We are intelligent. Buddhism invites you to overcome this suffering. If you can overcome this ignorance, actually we are so lucky among the complex situation, among the misbehavioral people, we can live without suffering like a lotus which comes from mud. Living in the common society with the people who have defilements, we can live as a lotus flower which comes from mud. This is the highest example that Buddhism has explained, to live as a person who is intelligent. And Buddha explained gradually how suffering arises. How suffering arises. What are the sufferings that we have at the moment? What are the primary level sufferings that we have? As you mentioned before, decay is suffering. Sick is suffering. Sickness is suffering. And death is suffering. And grief, lamentation, these are the things which cause to suffer. And in short, we can say decay, sickness, death. These are the main things. And what is the reason of these sufferings? Why we experience these sufferings? Yes, because of birth. Birth is the nearest reason for these problems. Jati. Again, what is the cause of birth? Why we were born?
Past karma.
Yes, past karma, and also very close reason is the process of becoming. The process of becoming. In Pali it says, what is that? Power. The process of becoming. And what is the reason of the process of becoming? Yes, clinging or upadana. Upadana patya. Clinging. And what is the reason of clinging? The nearest reason of clinging is craving or tanha or attachment. What is the nearest reason of clinging? Sensation or Vedana. Sensation of the nearest reason of tanha or clinging. What is the nearest reason of sensation? Contact or phassa. What is the reason of contact? There are 6 senses. Salayatana. 6 senses. What is the reason of 6 senses? Nama and Rupa, or mental and physical phenomena. Mental and physical phenomena. What is the reason of mental and physical phenomena? Consciousness or vijnana. What is the cause of consciousness? Mental formations. And what is the reason of mental formation?
Intention or delusion.
Ignorance or delusion. When you experience something through your 6 senses, if you are ignorant, all these things arise in 1 second. Those are very fast. We have no time to even think. When you experience something, if you think it is outside. For example, when you go to the mirror, if you think the reflection is outside, you are struggling with the reflection of the mirror, like a pet. No options. Some dogs bark when they go to the mirror. They may think that the picture or reflection is there is another dog there. That is why that innocent dog barks. We are not ignorant in front of the mirror, but everywhere we are ignorant. When we see something, when we look at these flowers, we may think that the suffering, the happiness or good smell comes from outside. I am happy because of these flowers. Actually, it is true in conventional truth. When you go to the deeper level, ultimate truth, happiness or suffering arises according to our mental conditions. Even though these flowers are near you, actually, if you don't look at them, you are not happy. And happiness or suffering arises because of many reasons. Not only just one reason. When you look at something, there are many things are together. Your eye, the forms, light, your consciousness, mental formations, all are together at the moment. That all conditions arise at the moment. Before those conditions arise at the moment, they were not before. For example, when you hear this sound, before you heard this sound, it was not here. After you experience, this sound didn't remain. Our all experience are also like that. But our ignorance doesn't accept it. Because for a long time we have practiced ignorance or delusion. And if we can overcome ignorance and if we can think this with wisdom, the opposite of ignorance is wisdom or panya. If you look at something with wisdom, then you have consciousness, you have mental formations. You have mental formations, you have consciousness, you have mental and physical phenomena, you have six senses, you have contact, you have sensations, but you have no after that, over that. If you are ignorant, all things arise together. If you look at them with intelligence, wisdom, with panya, you have mental formations. You have consciousness in some levels. You have mental and physical phenomena. You have six senses in some levels. But when we go to the deeper level, it will be different. You have contact. You can recognize people. You pain. You feel pain. That is why even Arahants, they have appreciated some things that they have seen. When they were in the jungles, they appreciated waterfalls, flowers, trees, birds. They have appreciated because they have a sensation. But they don't overcome this level. They have no craving, no clinging, no bother, the process of becoming, no other things. Actually, the person who attains enlightenment overcomes death, suffering, all things before they die. While they are living, actually they have overcome all these things, even death, even sickness. They may get some medicine. Physically, they may be sick, but mentally they are healthy. Nobody can disturb their peace of mind with physical illnesses. And this is the path that we should choose. And also, this is the place where we are confident in Buddha's enlightenment. Until you understand this path, actually your faith in Buddha and his teachings and his sanghas is blind. It is a blind faith. Whenever you understand these both paths, the place where suffering arises, on that day, your real confidence, saddha, increases. Now we have blind faith in Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Whenever we have this confidence, at that day, our all energy, dedication, increase to the maximum level. This is the only way to overcome suffering. Even though we do a lot of things in our life, they are useful to earn some money or get some food, but they are not useful to overcome suffering. Throughout your activities that you do in your day-to-day life, throughout your education, employment, you can earn some money, you can get a vehicle, car or land, but you can't overcome suffering. When we are in front of the problems like decay, sickness, separation and pain, we are unhappy even though we are very rich and well educated. And if somebody knows this path, actually he is so lucky, then he has a very special understanding. What is that? With the understanding of the dependent origination, now he has a very special understanding. That, what is that? As you mentioned before, the understanding of the five aggregates. The five aggregates. What is the five aggregates? Five aggregates means whatever we experience through our senses, five things immediately arise. What are those five things?
Matter.
Rupa, matter, Vedana, feeling, Sanya, perception, Sankhara, mental formations, Vijnana, consciousness. These five things are together. We can separate these five things. We should understand these five things with our wisdom or intelligence. For example, when you drink a coffee, you can separate sugar, water, coffee, hot. You can separate. You understand these things with your wisdom, intelligence. Because you have seen how you prepare coffee. We also should understand how these five things arise. That is why we practice fourfold mindfulness. Throughout practicing fourfold mindfulness, we recognize, we understand, we comprehend five aggregates. What is the nature of the five aggregates? Not being occurred, come to occurrence. Being occurred will not go to occurrence. Ahutva sambhutam hutva nabhavisati. This is the most valuable sentence, according to my opinion, in Buddhism. Ahutva sambhutam hutva nabhavisati. Not being occurred, come to occurrence. Being occurred will not go to occurrence. Like this sound. It was not here before, you heard it. After you experience, it will not go to future. Our whole experience that we receive through our six senses are like that. If we can recognize, reflect on this reality again and again, if we are clever to be permanent in this understanding, then gradually suffering ceases. As soon as you remember something, if you are clever to understand these mental formations arise at the moment, they didn't come to the present from the past. This arises and ceases at the moment. If you are intelligent and mindful, then those negative thoughts can disturb your peace of mind. In this situation, both of things are very important. In one side, we should have mindfulness. The other side, we should have wisdom or reflecting on impermanence. Both of them should be together. Even though you are mindful, even though your mind is in the present moment, without thinking past or future, if you don't reflect on impermanence, you are not away from suffering. Why is that? Even some kids, some animals, they don't remember their past. They have no plans for their future. They are also living in the present experience. Our success is not only having mindfulness, but reflecting on impermanence, arising and ceasing. Both of them should be together. And that is why we train our mind to live in the present moment using some meditation techniques with mindfulness, and with the concentrated mind we should reflect on impermanence again and again. Buddha says, the cause of suffering, the suffering. Suffering means like, decay, sickness, old age, death, pain, sorrow, lamentation, grief, despair. These are the things of suffering. But finally Buddha says, in short, arising of the five aggregates is suffering. That is the highest knowledge. Here this is very, very important thing. Now, please go to your previous understanding. You may think that suffering or impermanence is changing. Be mindful that Buddha says, after Buddha enlightened, Buddha says, I discovered a thing that I never heard. Before Buddha did his renunciation, Buddha had understood sickness, decay, death, rebirth. Buddha had realized. Buddha has understood. In that situation, Buddha says, after he enlightened, I realized and discovered a thing that I never heard. What is that? Understanding of decay, sickness, death is not difficult. Even scientists have realized changes. Be sure changing is not impermanence. Why is that? Yadaniccam tandukkam. If something is impermanent, it is unsatisfied, it is suffering. But changing is not always suffering. For example, if you are sick now, one day you will be okay. It is also changing. It is suffering? No. Now, someone is very small. One day he can walk. It is also changing. But it is not suffering. Now, this building is a very old one. More than 125 years, this building. Look at the roof. One day, If he meet a very rich devotee, he will repair these things. Then it is also changed. Then we are happier. It is not suffering after repairing. Actually, we don't suffer. We don't worry. We are happier. And changing is not always suffering. Sometimes it may be suffering, but not always. But changing and impermanence are different. What is impermanence? What is the impermanence that Buddha has explained? Yes, like this sound. This sound arises this moment. We can recognize one day this finger can be destroyed. One day my ears go to deaf. It can be realized. It can be understood by anyone. But the special thing in Buddhism, impermanence, anicca. Anicca means this sound arises at the moment with the conditions. It was not here before we experience. It will be not here after experience. On the other side, even though these fingers create this sound, yes, this sound doesn't belong to fingers. This sound doesn't belong to even my ears. This sound doesn't belong to even my consciousness. But without these conditions, I have no sound. The sound arises because of these reasons, conditions, but this result doesn't belong to reason. This is the very special thing that Buddha has realized when he enlightened under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. You know, we are suffering because of non-knowing of impermanence. That is why as soon as you remember something, your car or your workplace, your children, your relatives, as soon as you remember those things, your mind goes there and it fixed there. For example, when you left house, someone who is in your house maybe doing some bad things. Still, when you remember that incident, you may get upset. But sometimes that person is reading a book. Sometimes he is meditating. Sometimes he is preparing some food for you. But still you are in that previous experience. But it doesn't mean that we should forget our past. Don't misunderstand. Buddhism never says us to forget. If you forget something, be sure it is a big mistake in your life. You know, psychiatrists who know only mindfulness, they recommend some people who are stressed to forget their past and future. They know only mindfulness. They don't know the real mindfulness which Buddhism explains. That is why they advise you to forget your past and future, keep your mind in the present moment, then problems are solved. But Buddhism never says it. When you improve your mindfulness, your memory increases. Memory is not the fault. What is the fault? Fault is the ignorance and unmindfulness. That is the cause of suffering. Memory is not the fault. Even Buddha has explained his hundreds of previous lives. As you know Jataka stories, you have read it. Buddha also has explained his past experience, hundreds of past experience. It is not the fault. Fault is when we remember something, if our mind goes to past experience without mindfulness and understanding of the impermanence, that is the cause of suffering, then we suffer. And arising of the five aggregates is the real cause of suffering. That is the suffering. When we look at something, if we are ignorant in that experience, 5 aggregates arise. If we are intelligent, if we are mindful, then we can experience something without creating 5 aggregates. Those 5 things arise, but without clinging. And the second one, cause of suffering, the main cause of suffering, the nearest cause of suffering is craving, but the main root is ignorance. Craving is the nearest reason, the main root is ignorance. Ignorance. The third one, what is the liberation? The cessation from craving and ignorance. Liberation depends on how far we have overcome ignorance. Liberation or enlightenment. The fourth one, the path that leads to get rid of suffering is, with details, the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the path that leads to get rid of suffering. In short, Buddha says you have to practice only 2 things. Those are concentration and wisdom, samatha vipassana. Again, Buddha says, don't worry, you have to practice only 1. Not many things, only mindfulness. Keep your full attention always in your mind and body, not only mindfulness at the moment. At the same time, you reflect on impermanence. When you think something, when we hear something, we can experience, we can recognize those things that we experience without ignorance. For example, we can go to the mirror. We can prepare our physical body, see in mirror. But never we keep our hand to the mirror. Never we think that my physical body is there. We go to the mirror again and again. We can get some benefits, see in mirror. But we are never ignorant in front of the mirror. In the same way, we can go to our house again and again. We can see our relatives, friends again and again. We can go to our workplace again and again. We can go to the college where we study again and again. We can get benefits throughout associating with these things without suffering. We fulfill our duties, we fulfill our responsibilities than we did previously. But day by day, we are overcoming suffering. And with this understanding, if somebody has this understanding inside, even though his behavior is not pleasant, actually he is better than who hasn't this understanding. If somebody has this understanding without good behavior, he is like Aman Pakkavanna. No, other side Pakkang Amavanna. In outside, he is like unripe mango, but inside he is matured, he is grown, he is ripe inside. But outside it cannot be seen. There are some people who have good discipline, good behavior, very pleasant senses, and inside they are intelligent, they know this process, and they are like looking ripe mangoes. This is the thing that we decided to discuss. And then we also should become this understanding, because we would always appreciate to achieve this understanding. This is the only path to overcome suffering. Even though we have children, one day they go away. Even though we have our parents, one day they go away. Even though you have a good complexion in your physical body, day by day we are going to the old age. We are going to find a nice stick day by day. Even though we are alive, day by day we are going to the cemetery. This is the reality whether we like or not. This is the reality whether we know or not. In this situation, the real safety, refuge that Buddha has, Atta Deepa Bhikkhave Viharata Sarana No Anya Sarana. Dwell with yourself as an island. Dwell with yourself, no other refuge. Dhamma Deepa Bhikkhave Viharata Dhamma Sarana No Anya Sarana. Dwell with the Dhamma, no other refuge. Dwell with the Dhamma as a refuge, as an island, no other refuge. This is the way how we make a real refuge in our life. Then we are going everywhere holding a very bright lamp light. That lamp is not outside, it is inside. Even we are sleeping, we are lighting that candle, lamp. What is the lamp? Lamp is the wisdom, the understanding of impermanence arising and ceasing every moment. Whatever you think, whatever you experience, be mindful to reflect on this reality. And also try to improve the duration that you reflect on impermanence. At the same time, we have to develop our mindfulness, keeping our attention in the present moment, in our mind and body. And as we mentioned last week, improving our mindfulness is like improving our GPA, grade point average. Improving the reflect on impermanence is like EQ or IQ. Mindfulness is the Buddhist GPA. Reflecting on impermanence with the knowledge of the dependent origination is the Buddhist IQ or EQ. Day by day, if you are clever to improve in these areas, actually this is the real success in our life. Then our happiness gradually increases. It doesn't mean that we don't do our responsibilities for our children, for our relatives, for our workplaces. Actually, while we are doing our day-to-day activities, responsibilities, gradually we should go forward with this understanding. Buddhism never discourages you to give up your responsibilities. Actually, if we have this understanding, we are more responsible people. Okay, have you any questions? Okay. Okay, please try to read this article again, and then you can improve your understanding throughout reading this article. Every day when we do a discussion, we give you a handout as a summary, and after the sermon you can read it, and also we record the sermon and we keep it in internet too. If you are interested in, you can listen to it. And we appreciate your participation and thank you for your coming here. Now we are going to transfer merits that we acquired at the moment. By the power of all these merits, may our departed relatives also receive these merits and may they improve their spiritual energy, and may they attain final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's transfer these merits to our departed beloved relatives too. Idam me ñāti nam hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñāti nam hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñāti nam hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. By the power of all these merits, may guardian deities and angels also receive these merits, and may they enhance their spiritual energy. May they keep their eye on you too. May they also attain final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's transfer these merits to guardian deities and angels too. Ākāsattā ca bhummattā devā nāgā mahiddhikā puññaṃ anumoditvā chiraṃ rakkhantu sāsanam. Ākāsattā ca bhummattā devā nāgā mahiddhikā puññaṃ anumoditvā chiraṃ rakkhantu desanam. Ākāsattā ca bhummattā devā nāgā mahiddhikā puññaṃ anumoditvā chiraṃ rakkhantu tvaṃ sadā. By the power of all these merits, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May no problems come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May your all righteous wishes meet with success. Finally, may all of us attain final bliss of liberation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dukkham pantā ca nindukkhā, bhayam pantā ca nindbhayā, sokam pantā ca nissokā, hanto sambe pipānino. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.